Uh, Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. It's good to see you again this Tuesday. Can't believe it's already been a week since the first one, but it's good to see everyone, and thank you so much for coming. First, I wanted to say, thank you so much for coming. And if you have any questions or, hello, Rai. Yes. If you have any questions or comments about today, or you have something you want to say, please feel free to say it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer or add some commentary as well. So lately it's been pretty cold, so I'm trying to bundle up. But I think it's getting warmer soon. Um, like right now it's been like snowy and stuff, but I heard that tomorrow is going to be like 13 degrees Celsius, so I think it's getting better. But yeah, I hope in your areas it's getting warmer too, and hopefully not so cold. I mean, personally, I like the cold better, but yeah, I am getting a little like you know how when a season goes on for too long and you get a little bit weary. So hopefully, it's nice when the weather changes. So for today's topic, I was thinking of talking about like what is the purpose of like having like how do I word this? Like, what is the purpose of having religion, or like the purpose of like going to a religious place of worship in the modern sense, and like why would people, um, like in today's economy, what benefit is there to like donating money to a shrine or a temple or another religious place? And I know this is a discussion like all of us will basically like understand to an extent, but was kind of thinking about it from the perspective of like people who like may not understand, or who may be coming from different backgrounds. So I kind of was thinking about like how do we talk about that, this topic in like the general public sense, especially a lot of people are becoming more and more secular. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. But yeah, let me read the comments first though. So Redeem Sun says, "Oh, I saw some news about big snowing before elections." Oh, do you mean like the elections in Japan? If so, yes. Like it was very snowy during the election day, which was on the 8th, so a few days ago. And it was so bad that like some people weren't able to go out to vote on the voting day because of all the snow. So it's pretty problematic, pretty troubling. But I hope that they had an opportunity to cast their vote on another day in those prefectures where it snowed a lot. But yeah, it's been like super snowy, and especially in the prefectures that are more like West Japan, Northwest, they get so much snow. I think even more snow than Canada, at least this year. So it's been pretty crazy. Avery Sun says, I prefer the cold too. Anxiety and depression levels go down for me in fall and winter. Pretty sure I have reverse seasonal depression. Oh, yes. Honestly, me too. Like, I get pretty depressed in the summertime. I think I just don't do well in the really heavy heat. And, it's the sun isn't too bad, but it's like the heat that really gets to me, and like the humidity. And it just makes me feel like sick and like weird all the time. So I really prefer the cold and like more temperate climates, more so than hotter, humid climates. So yeah, but thank you so much. Yes. Mm. But yeah, so about the topic, like, well, why I was thinking about it was that like nowadays people like tend. Okay, so there's a few things that I want to start with. So first of all, like a lot of like modern age people, um, spending money is like the idea of like when you spend money, you're always gonna get something in return. So like if I spend 100 yen, I'm gonna get like this marker. or like if I spend like 300 yen, I can get this notebook or something like that, right? Or like food or a service or something like similar. You'll get something in return for spending money. Um, but like in the sense of like religion, whether it's like a shrine or a temple or like even a church, when you donate money, it's not like evident what you're getting back in return necessarily. Because like I know that sometimes you can donate money for a ceremony or service, but it's not like sometimes people might say like, oh, that was like, why do I have to pay money for something like spiritual or like something that they should do, like a priest should do naturally, you know? So like because a priest's job is to pray and do ceremonies. So if someone asks for a private one, like sometimes they're like, well, why do I have to pay to for you to do what your job is? This is like basically like some people really have that kind of like cynical, more like secular minded approach to things. And honestly, like like I can understand to an extent because especially like the economy now is really really hard around the world, where it's like difficult to afford even like food or like basic necessities like paying the bills. So when like people are spending money, a lot of people want to know like what are they getting in return for spending that money. And not only is it that like the economy is difficult and like it's really hard to afford basic necessities, but also like the type of work people have to do in order to earn the money is also very like more often than not it's very draining and very difficult. So like whether that's like office work or like retail or like any kind of job like that, um, or even like especially difficult like physical labor, factory work. um, People are like working really hard in order to earn money, but they don't earn a lot in comparison to the cost of living. So it can add to the feelings of like cynicism and kind of like skepticism, especially because like to someone like outside looking inside a shrine or temple or religious building, it almost can feel like the priest is not doing as hard work as like someone working at a factory or someone working in retail dealing with the public. And honestly, like I can understand that feeling so much because it's hard to like as like okay, I'm coming at a perspective like even though I'm a priest now, I wasn't one when I was working back when I was like 18, 20. So like I have the perspective of someone who was like a layperson, but also now the perspective of someone with experience in like a religious building and working in the religious profession. So it's kind of like I'm coming at it from both sides. But back when I was working, like when I wasn't a priest, I was just working in retail and like other regular jobs. It was hard for me to understand like what is exactly that priests and clergy are doing because there's not really a lot of like information or knowledge as to what's happening because all we usually see is like the ceremony part, like mass or like the temple service or something like that. And when you go to those things, it doesn't seem like there's not a lot of like physical labor and there's not a lot of like, you don't have to deal with the general public. You just kind of deal with the parishioners who are already really respectful. So it can seem like, well, if I'm working super hard in this job and I get such like so little money, but then the priest or the clergy is like doing very basic things and they get so much donations, like it can fuel the kind of um I don't want to say bitterness, but like this kind of well, what are they doing, like this kind of like you know skepticism and like questioning. And that is to me that is completely valid because of like the situation like our societies are in and like the economic situation. like I completely understand that mindset, and it's even one I used to have as well. And like especially like nowadays, like there's a lot of people too, like online too, like online services, online readings and stuff. And I feel like people don't mind as much to spend for those things because, like, for example, like a tarot card reading, because it's kind of more like materialist, not materialistic, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you can more tangibly receive something in relation to you, like your own personal benefit. So, like, for example, if you ask for a tarot card reading, you pay for it, you're going to get something tailored to your personal life back to you. But if you pray, if you like give a donation for like a ceremony or like a blessing, it's kind of more like general, and it's like in front of the altar, and it's kind of personal, but like you don't have something like material in return. So like with a tarot card reading, you have like the reading as kind of like a material thing you receive back. But after a ceremony, maybe you'll get like a naorai, or like, here we give the goshinmai. But for some people, it feels like, oh, well, then that's just like, we get that after the regular ceremonies anyway. So there's kind of this like, it's harder to see, I guess. And to be honest, like, I feel like it's harder for the modern average person to feel a connection to like religious places and religious buildings because of this kind of like gap, I feel like. And I know not everybody's like that, of course. Like, there's still people who go to church, there's still people who go to temples and go to shrines, and they're very devout and they donate like every time they go. And that's like a common person that also will come. But what I mean is, like, there's also a very large part of the population in modern times who find it hard to see the value and the meaning of, like, why do I have to go to worship, or why do I have to, support this religious space and these priests who like seem to have things really easy, right? So I am trying to think about their perspective, and because especially it's often like a majority perspective. And I was also thinking about this because, like, like I see a lot of people nowadays, like a lot of the like, you know what I mean, like a lot of spending money is spent towards like, and I understand, like, no judgment, like spent towards like hobbies or like concerts or like, you know like fashion or things like that. And I completely understand that. But then I thought about like how people were like in the older days, and how central like the religious place was for the people back then. So like if they had extra income, like some of their first part of their extra income would go towards the shrine or the temple or the church. But like nowadays, like the first part of the income will usually go to like a hobby or like a personal thing. And then like if they feel inclined, then it can go to the religious place. And I completely get that. Like, I'm trying to reiterate this because I'm not trying to like push like, well, these people today don't like support the religious places. Da, da, da. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but I just want to like, I'm thinking about like the modern mindset versus the old mindset, and why is it different? Because even for me, like, before I started to really think about this, like, usually my disposable income would go towards like, like, I want to buy magic cards, or like I want to buy fashion, like I want to buy like games. That's normal, right? It's normal for the modern mindset. And of course, like I would donate some of my money to like the Toronto Konko church when I was there, but it wasn't my first like thought. Unfortunately, like, I'm sorry, but like I was very much in the modern mindset where it's like, oh, I got my paycheck, I'm gonna buy all my stuff, and oh yeah, I want to donate to the thing. And that was so normal. So like it's completely normal, like I get it, but I'm just trying to think like where like but I'm like, okay, wait, stop. Like where did this come from? Like how did things shift this way? Like, I'm trying to think about the root of like why did things change like this? So but I'm starting to think about it and I wanted to discuss with it today. But let me read Avery-san's comment. So, are 5 yen coins usually donated to Shinto shrines in Japan? Heard something about that online. Ah, yes. So, traditionally they say like 5 yen coins. The way to say it in Japanese is goen. Uh, Go is 5 and en is yen or money. And the thing is that it's like a pun because goen also sounds like good connection, where go is like sacred or honorable and en is connection. So it's kind of like it's a homonym, a same sounding word between 5 yen and good connection. So to make a good connection with kami-sama, people offer like 5 yen in the donation box usually. But you don't have to offer only 5 yen. Like a lot of a lot of old school worshippers, like not just here in the Konko Shrine, but like other jinja, they offer like 10 yen, like sorry, 1,000 yen in the offering box, and like 100 yen, like any sort of amount. So you don't have to offer 5 yen, and it would actually be more helpful to offer like more, of course, because like realistically speaking, it does support the shrine and things like that. So like me personally, I try to offer like 100 yen at least. I feel bad offering like the tinier coins, so I try to offer like 100 yen at least. Or, I mean, unfortunately, I might not always have it, but I try to like not offer just tiny stuff because I know it's like at the end of the day, all the priests have to like empty the offering box and they have to count all the money. And if it's like a bunch of 1 yens, it's like really tough work. So I try to offer a little bit more. But yeah. Oh, yeah. And it would be so nice if you could come and like, check out the shrines and support them. Avery-san, it would be super good. Vadim-san says, Olivia Sensei, do you think this is more of a problem of Konkokyo? Because it seems that in Jinja Shinto, there is a variation in what you can be given after the ceremony. At least 100 different designs of omamori. Ah, yes. So, ironically, like I've actually seen this sentiment more in Jinja Shinto than Konkokyo. And I think it's because Konkokyo, you may not get like a material thing. You get like the Goshinmai, but you have like a lot more personal benefits. And what I mean by that is like there's more of a community. We have Naorai after, which is like sharing tea and snacks after a ceremony. And of course, like people can come anytime to do toritsugi mediation, which is like, the toritsugi mediator can listen to all their problems and stuff on their mind. And it's kind of like, I mean, from a secular point of view, it's a little bit like therapeutic. So I feel like people feel like they have like a benefit, especially in Konko Faith. And on the other hand, too, like we don't have a set like ceremony fee. So, like for example, if you come to the kyokai and you ask for us to pray for you, we're not going to be like, oh well, you have to pay 5,000 yen, 10,000 yen to do a prayer. You just come to toritsugi and have a prayer for you for free, basically. Like you don't have to donate anything. So I think that feeling makes people want to donate and feel like they're having something in return, and it's not like they don't feel like they're losing out. But on the other hand, in Jinja Shinto shrines, like if you want to go inside the worship hall and if you want a prayer ceremony done, it's always going to be like 5,000 yen to 10,000 yen. And even if you get something back, like the omamori or like sometimes you get a little sake bottle and the ofuda, of course. Some people feel like it's still not like they can't like feel like it's worth it. I guess like that sounds so bad, but like to be realistic, like I've heard this kind of like disappointment, I guess, because if you think about it, like like materialistically, like the ofuda and the omamori, the materials they are made out of is not very like expensive materials, thankfully. They're the real value of them is the spiritual value. But of course, if people are more secular minded, it's hard for them to like understand the spiritual value. And sometimes they might feel like a little bit like, "Oh, that was too much though for a ceremony." And so I kind of noticed this problem on the Jinja Shinto side more. And again, like I want to reiterate, like, because I know this is a sensitive topic. Like, it's not everybody who thinks this way, but it's just like stuff I've like heard, like said to me personally, and like some, like how to explain this? Like, people worry that they're getting like not scam, like not scam, but like they're worried that like they're paying too much for what they receive in return. And then I have to kind of like explain like there's a whole purpose of why it's that amount, but it's often not explained. So that's why there's kind of like this tension, especially in Japan, because it's like kind of like not really like appropriate to like directly explain things. Like it's kind of like should be just knowledge. But like not everyone can understand that, especially with overseas shrines as well. So it's like a little bit like intense. But let's see. So Vadim says, I see. I just always think that people really enjoy receiving something from Kyokai. Everyone loves trinkets, don't we? I guess. But it seems that no one is thinking seriously enough about expanding the range of Konko items to offer. I guess I would honestly love to be able to give some more like little like omamori things and stuff like that. I think it would make like people who are new to Konko, or like they're not like generational worshippers. I think it would help like incentivize them to kind of like, oh, it's like, oh, if I go, I'm gonna get this cool little thing, and it's like a reminder, like like this necklace, like, oh, it's a reminder of my faith. It's like a nice little thing, like a material thing. So, especially again, like in the modern age, we kind of are really like have a focus on material stuff, and that's not a bad thing. It's just how it has been for the last like 100 years or so, like 100 years, 70 years. All of us want kind of like something to tangible to have if we spend money that we worked hard to earn. So it's kind of like if we can modernize in that sense. And it's not like, I'm not saying like like be completely commercial or be completely capitalist. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like it'd be nice to have availability of things and kind of align to the sort of like society people are used to when it comes to money and giving money and receiving something. So that's what I'm trying to say. Vinita says, I have so many ideas, but it's so much harder to do things like that outside of Japan. Oh, yeah. So I'm just like, if you'd like to share, like, I'd love to hear some of the ideas. I think you talked about them before, but like, if you want to share them here too, like, I'd love to talk about them as well. But yeah, I personally always wanted to do, sorry, I've always wanted to do like, so in Gohombu, they have, little like goshimai holders that are like omamori. And they're like basically empty omamori pouches, and you put the goshimai inside. You've seen them before. And I would love to just have them here in our kyokai too, or like produce our own version. And I don't think it goes against like selling amulets, because it's not the amulet, it's just a little like a little thing to put your goshimai in. So I think like stuff like that's cute. And like I know a few years ago, the NPO Konko, sorry, Konko Peace Activity Center, KPAC, they made like the little Tenchikakitsuke keychains, which are super cute. And some kyokai during their anniversary services, they have like anniversary keychains. I have one that's like a little Konko lantern, and it's super cute. Like, I don't know, it's just stuff like that. I think it helps like incentivize people to want to, like, it's like, I have a Konko thing, you know. Um, this might be a little bit off topic, but like, for example, one like recent phenomena in the last few years has been like people having like their idol merch, like their Oshi, and they have like little collectibles, like a little plushie of them, or like keychains, and like they have their picture and like a thing, and it's really cute. And they people love to decorate their bags, or like Labubu. People have like Labubus on their bag and stuff. So it's kind of like, I guess the thing about material mindset in the modern time, it's not even really like about like having a material thing. It's kind of like a way to show your personality, your identity, the things you're into. It's like a conversation starter. And I guess in a way, material stuff has always kind of been like that. But I think it's at least like talking about the here and now, it's especially so. So I feel like if there's a way, especially in Konko, like shrines or kyokai, and then because we don't really have that, but if we have those things, it's kind of like a way to like show your identity and like what's your interest, and it can be a conversation piece. Honestly, I have a story that like I have a little Konko sticker. I put a Konko sticker on the back of our motorcycle, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because like, and again, like, it's a little material thing. It's just a sticker, but it shows like your identity, your personality, things like that, and what you're into, I guess. And but interestingly enough is that like there was a story that happened where like we parked downtown Yokosuka, and then a woman walked by the bike, and she saw the Konko sticker, and she recognized it from like her childhood. She's like, oh my god, that's the Konko crest that like I my mom took me to the shrine. And then she's like, I remember there was one here in Yokosuka. And she's like, maybe it's still there. So then she actually like tried to follow the path she remembered, and she found our shrine, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's still here. I remember this from my childhood. I used to go with my mom, like sometimes, and then like she like remembered all that from the sticker. So I'm like, it was just like, it's so like interesting, like how even these like little material things can like bring a connection or start a conversation, or I think they have power to them as well. It's not just like frivolous, if that makes sense. So I think they're really good to have. So Everson says, off topic, where did you get your necklace? Oh, thank you. So yeah, this necklace, it was actually a gift from one of the elders at Toronto Kyokai, and I believe it was like it was hand produced, like not handmade, but like they custom ordered it from a jeweler, and it was for like an anniversary at Toronto Kyokai. So I'll show a close up of it because it's really cool. Unfortunately, the original chain broke, so I have like a silver chain, but it's like this, and it's cool because it's a little bit hollow. Uh, it's You can see through the crest. It's not like a single plate, so it's really cool. Sorry, it's pretty blurry for some reason when I go up on the camera, but I'll take a picture of it later and I'll show you. But it's like my favorite necklace. I like it really. I like it very much because I like the design, and I appreciate the ladies who gave it to me too. Oh, it's okay, Risa. Um, Wait, sorry. Let me read the comments. Hold on. Vidimson says, yeah, I saw the Kakitsuke keychains. They're really cute, but I just think we can go a little further than just white paper inside plastic keychain. But that is a good start too. I guess, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, like the production was from the NPO, like a nonprofit. So, they had to like save the money because it was not for, like, they weren't selling them for profit. It was just like a little donation thing. Like you could get it and it would like donate towards the K-Pack. So, but yeah, like if we sell or like produce like little things for like to earn money, or like in a more I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? Like business sense. We could definitely do more because it would be easier to like earn back the money to produce more. Like you know what I mean? Like income outgo. So it would be easier to do that. Uh, and Avery says, "I'm sorry. Can you please repeat yourself? I had to reload my YouTube. I guess so. Yeah, this necklace is from the one of a gift from one of the elders at Toronto, Konko Toronto Church. She gave it to me just as a gift, so I was really thankful. And it's my treasure. But yeah, I think it was an anniversary gift for one of the grand ceremonies in Toronto or another Kyokai. I don't remember. I'm sorry, but it was custom made at a jeweler. So they were like, if you ever want another one, like you can always go to a jeweler and ask them to make like a konko necklace like this. So it's like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, but yes. So I'm just thinking like it's yeah, because I get. Hold on, let me think about it again. So the thing is like a lot of people can easily feel like uncomfortable or like cynical towards religious buildings and ceremonies. So I guess my feeling is like, first of all, I think there should be more transparency, more openness about like what is exactly like clergy do in churches, shrines, or temples. I think that would help a lot for people to just see like they're not just like collecting donations and then doing a ceremony and that's it. Like, I think it would help a lot of people to see like what exactly they're doing, you know. And I think it would also help if like you could break down the costs. So like for example, when we do ceremonies here or like in other Konko Kyokai, sometimes there are ceremonies that are like unavoidable. You do have to donate money for, unfortunately, because like for example, like weddings or funerals, especially, or memorial services, they do have recommended donation to be able to perform the ceremony. But we break it down because first of all, like the costs first of all usually go to like a hall or like a funeral hall or the wedding hall, and the secondary costs usually go towards offerings. So like we have to get to do a proper ceremony and a formal ceremony. We have to do the right respect to kami-sama the traditional way. So that means we have to prepare offerings, fruits, vegetables, flowers, things like that, and unfortunately they cost money, so that is part of the donation cost. However, you can ask, like, I don't want any offerings, and it would be like less expensive, of course. So there's ways to adjust it, but like a formal, like chanto, like proper ceremony, like yeah, of course, like we have to ask if you would like this style, then we have to ask for this money so we can purchase the items and prepare them and set them for the ceremony. So it's stuff like that, and um, there's other work involved. So, for example, like the head priest needs to take a lot of time to prepare the main prayer, and the main prayer is very important in a ceremony, especially for funerals, because it like details the person's life through their life. Like for example, like it says like milestones and like things that they did, and it takes a lot of time to write this prayer because it has to be in and a lot of skill because it has to be more in like the traditional ancient Japanese words, and it has to be done the formal style. So this is like a specialized skill and time and labor that you have to like it's part of the donation is like compensating the priest for their time, labor, and skill, as with any other kind of job. So that's also included in the main donation cost. And of course, there's other like costs involved because like when you put on the shozoku, like the priest uniform, like it means that like it's getting wear and tear. So like any repairs towards the shozoku or repairs towards the altar from its use, like that's also a little bit added in. So, and also of course the time, effort, and skill for the priest to perform the ceremony here in the space. So when a ceremony is being conducted here in the shrine, in the worship hall, that means like another person can't do a ceremony. So like it's kind of like taking the time and the effort. So that's also where the money and the donations kind of come in to compensate for that space and time and labor and skill and the offerings. So it's all those things. And when you consider all of those things, 5,000 yen, for example, at like a regular shrine, it starts to add up. It starts to make sense because, nowadays, like, I swear you buy like a few groceries and it's already like $20, like 2,000 yen. So, that's already the offerings. And then it's the time, the effort, the skill, all these things come together. So, I feel like just being transparent about that can kind of help people feel like, okay, well, actually, yes, like there is a lot of things going into this. And I feel like I'm being considered and cared for. And, I feel like I'm getting my hard work that I put in to earn this money is being exchanged in equivalent sense for the priest's hard work to do this ceremony on my loved one's behalf or my behalf if it's a wedding. It's kind of like that equivalent. It feels more fair, it feels more even and proper, if you have the transparency behind it. So I think that's really key. Um, so yeah, let me check the comments. So Avery-san says, "Oh, that's beautiful." Yes, thank you. So, oh, Seth, oh, Seth, is that you? I'm not sure. Seth says, I finally have a little Konko sticker from my car and I'm excited to put it on. I just keep forgetting to take it with me to my car. Oh, yes. Yeah, oh, let this be a reminder. Don't forget your Konko sticker and put it on the car. Yeah, I put them on everything. I have a sticker on the motorcycle. I have a sticker on my helmet. I have a sticker on my phone, actually. Like, it's here's my Konko sticker. I have one on my iPad. I have it on my laptop. I just put them on everything. Because I like to show my identity as like a Kongo believer and like a Kongo minister. So I put the sticker on all my stuff. So yeah, exactly, all the stickers. But I feel like you guys get it. Actually, on this laptop, there's like there's also like Final Fantasy stickers and like other hobbies and Bloodborne and all this stuff. So like Konko is part of it, part of my life. So it's there too. But yeah. So Terrence says religious buildings can exist with donations. Also, the priest is doing a job for which they need a stipend. Ah, yes, exactly. Thank you, Terrence. Exactly. Like, I know a lot of people think like, oh, well, the priests just get a whole bunch of money and they don't do anything. it's like, well, I know, because again, there's not a lot of transparency. So, especially when people hear like religious buildings don't have to pay taxes. I mean, at least that's true in Japan and Canada. Shrines and churches, they don't have to pay taxes, like property tax at all. So people are like, oh, well, that's not fair. And I get it, I do. But at the same time, like, they're providing a public space for people to come in and a space for people to pray and reflect. And they're not earning a profit like in terms of selling merchandise like directly like a shop or a restaurant. And again, like Terrence said, like priests get a stipend usually, or if they do get a salary, like in some shrines here in Japan, it's not a very big salary. So it's kind of like providing a public service for people to be able to use and enter and be a part of. And I feel like that's why, like, ideally, um, you know, the cost should be lessened, the burden should be lessened. But of course, on the other hand, some people do take advantage of that. Unfortunately, realistically, some people do take advantage. But hopefully, like, of course, there's ways that they would, cease that activity and be back to being proper. But yeah, ideally, this space is a public space for everybody to come in and relax or pray and take the time for themselves. So I think that's also why it's good that most religious places don't have to have the extra burden of the property tax or things like that on top of like paying electricity, paying water, etc., etc. So that's kind of my thoughts. But yeah, Tifa says all the stickers exactly. There's so many stickers. And Everson says, "May I message you on Discord for that?" Oh yes, of course. Like you don't have to ask. Just please feel free to message anytime. But thank you so much for asking. I appreciate. You're being very polite, and thank you. But yes, I want you to know. Please don't worry. You can message me anytime. So thank you so much. Yes. But yeah, so I was just thinking like, oh no, yes, of course. Thank you for being considerate. I really, really appreciate it. And I know, like, I want you to know, like, I know some people really don't like it if you don't message without asking them. So I really appreciate you did ask. But I just want to reassure you that it's okay for me. So thank you so much. Yes. But yeah. Um, so I was just thinking like, how can we kind of like we as in like people who are spiritual, who are connected to, spiritual places, religious buildings, like how do we kind of connect to people who are more on the like secular side of things and like who are not really into like more religious or spiritual side? Because I feel like a lot of people think nowadays like if you come to a religious place, it means like you like I don't know, like you have to be like that specific religion. And I know that kind of comes from like, the like, in like Western culture, like if you want to go to a church, you have to be Christian. Or if you want to go to a Buddhist temple, you should be Buddhist or something. But I don't know, like maybe it's a mix of like living in Japan versus like living in Toronto. But I never really felt like you had to be like that specific religion just to go to a public religious space. Because when I was in Toronto, I went to like, I would go to the Catholic Church, I would go to the Orthodox Church, I would go to the Buddhist temple, I would go to the Konko Church. I never really felt like I was doing something like illegal or like wrong. Um, it just felt like, I could go. And every time I went, like, for the most part, I was pretty much welcomed. Especially like of course the Konko church I welcome, but like for example, I went to a Buddhist church in Toronto, and they were like super nice to me, and like I was a complete stranger, but they were also very nice to me, and they even gave me some of the offerings off the altar, and like it never felt like I had to be I had to proclaim that I was Buddhist in order to pray there or like spend time there. And they just let me participate in that public space without judgment or without questioning. And I think that's really important to have this kind of space and not feel like you have to like make a proclamation or like you have to identify as that particular religion to just go somewhere and like experience it. And like I don't know, like even when I went to Spain, so we would just walk into like a little church, and it was quiet and it was just open and you could sit there and pray, and I really liked that. Like I think those spaces, especially in modern times, are really like rare and precious, and I wish more people knew that like you don't have to like identify or like make a proclamation or like like it doesn't have to be super serious to just go to a sacred place and like have a peace and like have somewhere to like just have peace and quiet and reflect. And it doesn't mean that you have to like follow doctrine or dogma or like identify with a religion in particular. It can just be a space you go for your own soul, for your own like spiritual recluse or like respite, I want to say. So I don't know. I just wish that more people kind of could feel that in the modern times. But I think it's really difficult to like show people that you can do that. And maybe it depends on where you live. But I wish that you like if you do live in a place where it's not like gonna be a big deal. I wish that more people could know that's possible. So yeah. Terrence Sun says, none of my daughters are attracted to religion. Oh, it makes me wonder why I am. Oh, yes. Honestly, it really depends on the individual. And again, like, I just think a lot of modern mindset, I guess, like, it kind of really, how do I say this? Like, it kind of really separates, like, us from religion, spirituality. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll give my examples soon. But let me read Avery Sun's comment. So Avery Sun says, I kind of wonder what it's like to visit a Buddhist temple despite me not being Buddhist. Ah, yes. Well, if there's one in your area, I recommend to try to go, just try to go and check it out. For me, I just went to the temple I thought looked cool and not looked cool, but looked like a nice temple, and I wanted to check it out. So I just I checked the opening hours, and I just went, and I was just like, "Hello, like, nice to meet you. I just wanted to see and pray." And they're like, "Oh yes, welcome," and they were super nice. So I honestly think, yeah, just try and check it out, and don't be nervous. I mean, easier said than done. I know it can be scary sometimes, but I think it would be good to try. And yeah, they're very welcoming usually, like Tifa said. Buddhist temples are usually very welcoming, especially you don't. There's no like baptism or anything like that for Buddhism. Like you could just be Buddhist if you feel like you want to practice and try to learn. So yeah, so I think it's good. Terrence says, I think institutional religion is not the only way, and people know that. Yeah, yes, exactly. I think so too. So, like, for me, for example, like, me growing up, uh, like, my family was not religious at all. My mom was, like, really agnostic. My dad didn't really talk about religion at all. My sister, like, same, nobody was really super religious except for my grandmothers. And like my Italian grandmother was very, very Roman Catholic. My Greek grandmother was really, really Greek Orthodox, super devout. But they never really like it was their thing, but it wasn't like really, really pushed. Of course, like we had to go for ceremonies and stuff, but it wasn't like you have to be with me. Like there was kind of like more freedom. So for me, like, especially usually living with my mom, like, I wasn't really like religious the same way. I was like, I don't know. And like, most of life now, the big focus is like, getting a good job, getting good money, getting a nice house, stuff like that. It's very like material centered, which is good and valid. And I understand why, because like, of course, like material things are rooted in our survival. We need food to eat to survive. We need like a heater going in the wintertime to not freeze. We need clothes. It's completely normal and it's understandable. But on the other hand, I feel like a lot of spiritual stuff, like stuff to do with the soul, kind of has taken like a back seat. And then the material side is very like the focus. Instead of, I feel like they should be like connected. I feel like we should have a focus on material necessities and identity, but also spiritual identity and spiritual connection. But I feel like in modern times, like a lot of spiritual stuff kind of takes a backseat, and then material stuff's the focus. So for me personally, like I never really like was interested in like religion in and of itself, because for me, like religion to me didn't feel spiritual. Does that make sense? Like it felt like that's what you do, like you practice religion because you're following this set of beliefs. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Ren. Oh, I might extend it to 1 more hour, but we'll see. We'll see. But thank you so much. Ren. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Yes. But yeah, so I thought like religion was just something people like followed because like they follow this set of like this rules or like beliefs, you know what I mean? Like so for example, I'm like, okay, so my grandma is Roman Catholic and she's Roman Catholic because she believes in Jesus and the Bible and the commandments, and that is her thing. But when I read the Bible, I'm not really, that's not my thing so much. There was a lot of things in it I didn't like, and it didn't really vibe with me. And I appreciated Jesus and I like his teachings, but I didn't feel like the whole package. I was like, that's not really for me. So, you know, because I don't like follow this part, I feel like I can't be like the same way as my grandmother, so I can't be Catholic the same way. And in some ways, that is true. But here's the thing: I wasn't thinking about the spiritual side at all. Like I wasn't thinking about my spirit or my soul. I was just thinking in terms of like identity. I was thinking just in terms of material identity. And it's interesting I was thinking that way because usually when you think about a religion, you should think about your soul from the beginning, right? But the way it's kind of understood in like modern society, it's more of like just kind of like what you are adhering to as like a person, but it's not so much about like your soul, I guess. Does that make sense? And I know like there's like concept of God and soul in religion, and that did interest me. But again, like I couldn't really get behind the concept of how these things were explained or understood in Catholicism. So I just kind of like kind of like I'm like, well, I'm not really that, but I respect it. So, I'll go to mass, I'll try to learn, but I'm just not really feeling it. But let me read the comments. So, Avery-san says, my sister and parents are Christians. I'm both Christian and Shinto. My girlfriend is Taoist. Oh, that's nice. That's like very multiple religious. That's good. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Yes. But yeah, so I'm just trying to like figure out articulation, but I feel like, and even this happens like in Japan too, like I feel like even for people in Japan, when they see like Shinto or Buddhism, they're like, oh, well, that's just the thing that my parents or grandparents did. Because there's been some people who come here to the Konko Kyokai, and they were like, for example, they're like, my great grandma was Konko, but I wasn't really Konko because that was like her thing. But then I found it again and I realized like this time, like, oh, I actually want to be Konko. And then I realized like, oh, what my great grandma was actually practicing was something that actually resonated with me. But there was like this distance because it was like, oh, that's what my great grandma does and this is what she believes in, but like that's not what I really feel right now. So I'm not gonna be the same thing. But I feel like there's this gap that happens because like we're not really connecting it on the soul side. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know, like I feel like the way that we kind of begin to understand religion and spirituality in the modern times, until we kind of have this like thought about our own soul and our own spirituality. And some people never have that thought until like way later in life. I feel like it's really hard to connect the dots to religion in that sense, like spirituality in that sense. And because it's easy to just see it as like that's just the thing that my relative does or did, and it's harder to make a connection with it. And so, like, for me, for example, I wasn't really religious until I started to kind of have these like weird experiences, like weird spiritual experiences. And I don't really want to get too into it on live, like public live. But basically, like, I was having a lot of crazy stuff happen. And then I was like, okay, well, like, I need to find the answer to these things. And for me, I was the closest thing that could answer these experiences was religion and spirituality. So that's when I kind of like that's when I kind of like made that's when I connected the dots between like religion wasn't just like the set of precepts that like someone believes in, but religion is also something that explains something deeper and something unseen. And I feel like because perhaps like our world now is very detached from the unseen world, from the spiritual world, unless you're like called to it or like have an experience or like just kind of feel a pull. It's very easy to just go through your whole life and not really make a connection with it. And I think that ties into what we talked about last time, because last time, remember how we were talking about like food in Shinto, and how like back then they could only rely on the farm, and that farm's harvest relied on all the forces of nature. So their material survival and material life was interconnected to the unseen world, to the spiritual world. So, of course, like religious and spiritual thoughts and feelings would come more naturally to someone who relied on some more sides of the unseen world, whether it was like with farming or with medicine. When all medicines failed, like what else are you going to turn to? You're going to turn to the unseen world, to the gods, to the Buddhas, to the deities. So I feel like people back then with less material stability, they could more easily um, connect to the unseen world in their daily life. But for us in modern times, we're not afraid of as much of like medical issues or food scarcity as much, in terms of like the real thing preventing us from getting material help or comfort is often money. So we focus on money to ensure our survival, because money is something that if we have it, we can ensure we can have food, we can have medical care, we can have all these chances of more survival, more comfort. But back then, there was things that money could not buy or not provide. So it led to them connecting to unseen world, to the divine world more. I mean, even if you think about the founder of Konko Faith, Konko Daijin, like what made him connect to Kami-sama War was because he had that throat illness that doctors couldn't cure. So at the end of like he was like terminal from this throat illness, and it was only that like his devout faith really connected to Kami-sama, and he apologized for like any of his misgivings or misdeeds, or like, and he was just praying to Kami-sama, and that's how the connection happened. But nowadays, like if someone has like a life-threatening illness, we're really focused on like pain, like getting the best treatments, going to the right hospital, and sometimes that might involve money, sometimes it might not involve money, but basically we're focusing on the material side, which is of course is important. But what I'm trying to say is that the connection, like the way to connect to the unseen world, is more rare in this time, in this day and age. So I think that contributes to why it's more difficult for people to kind of make the connection to religion, to spirituality, like in terms of like the majority of people, not like the spiritual communities, not like the religious communities, and not people who follow religion just because it's tradition, but like, people who kind of like, who were like me, who were just like, oh, that's just like my grandma's thing, but I don't really connect to it. So I'm just going to focus on my school, my work, my career, etc., etc., and not really think about it because I didn't think about my soul or like my spiritual, connection. It wasn't like something that was the gate for that was not open. So I'm kind of thinking about like, I feel like that's why a lot of times, like it's hard for people to connect more deeply unless they have that kind of calling. And it's the same reason why it's harder for people to kind of like come into a place of worship, or kind of see the value in terms of like the value of like ceremonies and having a priest to talk to, because if there's not really that like opening of trying to understand their spiritual identity, or the connection of the soul to the unseen world, to the spiritual world, it kind of becomes more shaky. And so all of it kind of becomes more like floaty and shaky. So I think, like, again, like I feel like a way to kind of help this might be more like having a bridge, because like instead of religion or religious places being just like, that's the place my grandma goes to. It can be like, oh well, if I go here, they have these cute, like, I don't know, little omamori or something, or they have these cute little keychains, or like, they have something I can tangibly receive and bring back to my house and like keep as like something that's mine, and I feel a connection that way. Or again, like being priests being more transparent about like what's going on, like in terms of their duties, in terms of their work, in terms of like the costs involved with running a religious space, a religious building, a lot of things like that. It's good to be transparent, to also make a bridge to people, because a lot of people just don't know, like I could not tell you what a Catholic priest does in his daily life because it's not really talked about. I mean, I could probably research it, but it's not like something that's common knowledge. But whereas it's common knowledge what someone who works in retail does, it's common knowledge what an office worker does. Excuse me, like, all these sorts of jobs kind of have a common knowledge. Like, you can understand basically what they're doing, but I feel like in modern times, like if you think about a priest, like the common knowledge is very like very limited and feels very like easy in a sense. But of course, that's not true at all. I'm sure all the priests of all religions are doing lots of hard work, but we just don't really have that communication that we would know about it as much. So I feel like that can help too, like bridge people. And I think that like perhaps like maybe just like kind of moving religion away as like not so much as like a traditional, like it is traditional, but like also emphasizing the like spiritual connection as well. But it can be also like very, like it's not so simple, because sometimes some religions, some factions of them, there's also like a lot of problematic behavior in terms of like preying on people who are like in difficult times, or like, there's also a lot of problematic things with like, especially with like sin and Christianity, and like the concept of hell, and there's a lot of stuff like that too, which also needs to be addressed in religious communities, because I feel like trying to make people connect to religion through fear is really bad. Like, I really think we should stop, like, move away from that kind of behavior and mindset, because I know a lot of like, sometimes this happens a lot where like some religious factions and bodies will like use fear as a way to kind of draw people in, because they're afraid of like something will happen to them if they don't go to church, or if they don't donate, or they don't do this. And I think that's very problematic. So yeah, I think that if that sort of thing happens, it should definitely be criticized and like talked about in the open. But if the religious place is otherwise harmless and open to people, and just like not using fear, but rather using like, what it is, like a community space, you can connect to people, you can make it a part of your identity. I think that's a more healthy way to have people connect to religion, rather than like leave people with like religious trauma, because it's just so bad sometimes. When I grew up in Catholic school. Like, I grew up through Catholic school. Um, and a lot of times, like, my teachers in Catholic school would do the like fear mongering sort of thing. Like, if you don't do confession, you're gonna go to hell and stuff like that. And I was like 7 years old, 8 years old, and I was terrified because, of course, like, this person I trust in a position of authority, the teacher, is telling the child, like, if you don't do confession, you're going to go to this scary place forever, for eternity. And of course, it made me go to confession. But I don't think that's right. Like, I think like I think they should have properly, like, not properly explained, but rather not use that aspect to teach the importance of confession, because confession really should be something that you can let go of anything weighing on your mind, or like any personal guilt you might feel. You could talk to someone, you could talk to the priest, and like let go of that bad feeling. But using the method of instilling fear and doing something out of fear, I don't think that was good. Personally speaking. So yeah, I think it really also, there should be some responsibility and onus on the religious body to not take advantage of people's vulnerabilities. So yeah, I think that's important. Averyson says, my family and I moved away from a hateful and fear-based church years ago, and we moved to a more affirming Episcopal church. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you were able to move. I'm glad. Yeah. Redeem-san says, I mean, many religions are actually based on fear of sufferings uh, as the core of human life, and no matter what language they use and how friendly they are, core is the same. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not gonna lie, like, a lot of religions are based on fear. Like, even in Shinto a bit, like, Jinja Shinto, like, it's kind of there, because like in ancient times there was this like fear, like, if you didn't like revere the kami-sama properly, like their aramitama would like do like tatari and stuff on you. And it's like, oof, yeah, it's like scary like that. But honestly, I think fear is powerful, powerful part of humanity. Especially, basically all fear of humans is rooted, it roots in the fear of death. So like fear of illness, fear of injury, fear of losing your material goods, fear of losing connection with people. All of these fears all go back to the same root fear, which is death. Because if you don't have community around you, if you don't have friends, and in like caveman days, that basically means you would be dead. because no one would be helping you like hunt or gather or like have a community to stay in. It would basically mean you would die, if you were unless you were lucky. And fear of injury also, caveman days, sometimes injuries were too severe, you just die. Fear of hunger, it goes back to the same thing, you would starve to death. Fear of losing your material things, again, like you would be freeze to death or starve to death or get injured or any number of things. Basically all of it roots back to death. And you compound that fear, if after death it's even worse. So it's like the fear of death, and then the fear of the afterlife. It's like mega fear, and that is very powerful. That is extremely powerful to the human psyche. Even if you do like all the psychological work and like logically understand like many things that so in other words, like you don't really actually have to fear death, and you don't have to fear afterlife of suffering. But the way our human, like the meat of this human brain is made to want to survive at all costs, and it wants to avoid death at all costs, basically, unless, like, of course, there's extraneous circumstances or mental illness. But basically, the human biology is centered around survival and death. They're intertwined. So it makes sense that a lot of religion also deals with this fear, because it's something that's existed with us since the dawn of time and affects everything. So, I feel like a lot of religions have tried to use the concept of divinities and afterlife to explain like why suffering that leads to death happens. And I feel like a lot of times it goes back to like an anger or like a wrath of a deity or a wrath of nature. Because when we humans are angry and upset, we tend to want to like destroy or like, you know, do like be destructive. And I'm not really sure why. But like for example, like I think it's common, like if someone's really, really angry, they're gonna be like, they like throw something, or they like tear apart a paper, or they like yell like, "Rah," like that's like human anger. And unfortunately, like even with people, if we're like super out of control, we could also like kill another person if they're like super angry, and that's not justified at all. But it's something that can happen, right? And probably has happened many many times in history, now and back then. So like just being realistic. So it's kind of natural to assume that like if there's a higher power with a consciousness like us, it means that if they get angry, then we're at danger. The same way, if a person gets really, really angry, we're also in danger. So it's kind of like that mindset. And I'm not trying to say like I know what deities think and I know what they're doing, but I'm just saying like it's natural to come to that conclusion that like the fear of something, a greater being, and inciting their anger may lead to our death, and that is the biggest fear all humans have. So there a lot of that aspect has come into like every single religion because of this. Like I think it's very like an innate human thing. I feel like even people who aren't religious at all, if they get sick, if they get diagnosed with like a terminal illness or something really bad happens to them, a lot of people will say like, why does this happen to me? Like, why me? What did I do wrong? And they think that they did something wrong. They think that they're being punished for something. And even if they're not religious at all, or they even have no experience with Christianity, they have no experience with like any sort of religious thought like that. But naturally, they start to think, did I do something wrong? Is it my fault? I'm being punished, and that makes me really sad to see. But I understand why they could think that, because of the way like human biology is kind of understanding the facets of our own human anger, our own human violence, how we react. Not all of us. Like what I mean is like the human reaction to upset is usually destruction. And so if something destructive or scary happens to us, we naturally think, well, something or someone or something happened that I'm being punished or something's angry at me. Because if we get upset and angry, then we're destructive. So if something is upset and angry at me, then I'm being destroyed or I'm being hurt or something bad happened to me because of it. And that's completely natural to feel as a human being. And I think that's where a lot of religious concepts like that have come from. And personally, I think that it's okay and it's natural. And I think it can bring some comfort to people and it kind of gives some sort of control, control over if I pray and maybe that makes the thing angry at me calm down, then maybe I'll be safe from harm. So it's kind of like putting control over this uncontrollable situation that kind of brings us ease. So, if I get sick and I think a deity like was angry at me and that's why I got sick. So if I pray to them, then I can kind of have some control or effect that maybe if they stop being angry at me, then I'll recover. So it's kind of like that natural human mindset. And I'm not saying it's true or not true because I don't know. I don't know how the unseen world works specifically, but I'm just saying that it's natural for this mindset to happen in people in regards to something unfortunate or suffering that happens in their life. And religious thought and spirituality can bring some comfort and control to that. And control as in like you feel like you can do something about this situation. Even if you feel powerless, there can be something you can do through prayer. So it's kind of like that feeling. And so what I'm trying to say is like not all of it is like done purposely, maliciously. That mind, it can be completely natural how that comes up. But my criticism is when that people take advantage of that natural fear and they use it in order to control other people. So that's my issue with it. So like I don't mind that it exists or like I don't have because I don't know again. Like I don't know the unseen world. I don't know the spiritual world. And maybe even if like maybe if it's not true for one deity, it might be true for another deity. So I don't know. Like it's very unknown and mysterious. So I don't know about that side. But what I do know is that when another human uses that fear and that idea or that knowledge in order to control other people or to influence them, to manipulate them, I have a problem with that. Like that's my criticism because I feel like that is too much, and it's preying on people's innate fears, and I feel like that's very problematic, and I don't like that at all. And I feel like a lot of I feel like that's very predatory, and instead of making people's fear worse, they should try to a place of worship, like a holy place, a religious place, or a clergy should try to like comfort the person through this difficult time. Like let's say like maybe Kami-sama is mad, I don't know. But I'm not gonna say to the person, oh yeah, it's your fault, Kami-sama's mad at you, too bad, like bye, you're just gonna suffer. Like that's crazy. So I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, Kami-sama's mad at you, so if you donate to the shrine, Kami-sama will be happy, and so give us lots of money. Like that's crazy, right? So like no, like my opinion is that if you're a clergy member of a place of worship, you should like pray with the person to help alleviate their fears and troubles. and not take advantage of their difficult time or their vulnerable time. You know, I don't know if Kami-sama was actually mad or something happened. Maybe we'll find out during prayer. But anyway, in the meantime, what's most important is that, like, me as a clergy member can be here for that person and help them through those fears and those feelings of guilt and those feelings of like scared they did something wrong. You know, I feel like that's more important to do, even if there is that aspect of like fear or like a scary side of nature or, you know, our fear of death. I feel like it should be the responsibility of the clergy member, no matter the religion they're part of, to help the person work through those fears and help them kind of understand, like, you know, not don't focus about like whether or not, you know, like you're gonna be like punished more or something like that. Just apologize, just like, you know, just pray, just ask for blessings. And if it's true that the kami-sama is angry, I'm sure that a sincere apology and your prayers will get through to them and things will be better. And if they're not angry at all and it's just a misunderstanding, then anyway, your prayers will connect to the kami-sama and they'll want to help you to see seeing your sincere heart, or, you know, God or like Buddha or anything, any divine benevolent spirit would see that and want to help the person. Because it's the same way with people, right? Like a good-hearted person, like even if someone's really really angry, if like over something someone did, you know, if someone sincerely like deeply apologizes and, you know, they're like, I'm very very sorry and I won't do it again, and like I'm accepting this punishment, you know, I understand why you're angry. I think a lot of us who have a good, like, you know, who aren't like just out to hurt people, you know, I think a lot of us, maybe we don't necessarily have to forgive someone based on what happened, but we can calm down for sure. Like we could just be like, well, okay, like, you know, you see it, you know what you did bad. So, you know, you don't like still like, you know, I feel like, I mean, obviously it depends on what happened, right? Like it depends on what happened. But, you know, most of the time you can kind of have some leeway with the person, right? Unless they did something super horrible, like really bad. But most of the time people don't do really bad things to us. So, you know, it depends really. It depends on what's going on. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, when someone comes to you with a really big apology, like, at least for me and my experiences, like, there's been people who've, like, done really bad things to me, like, betray me, said horrible things about me, you know, did abusive things, emotional manipulation, all sorts of horrible things like that. But if they came to me, like, genuinely sorry, I can't find it in me to stay mad at them. Even if I don't forgive them for what happened, I don't like, I don't wanna, like, I don't wanna be like, I don't wanna kill them, you know? Like, I don't wanna hurt them. I just want them to understand what they did to me was wrong, you know? So, like, that's what's important. And I feel like if I feel that way as a human, I think that my opinion is that at least kami-sama who have like, and divinities who have like a bigger picture of things, who are older, who are immortal, I feel like they can have a bigger perspective than I can have as a human. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say, you know? So yeah, Avery-san says, yeah, just like natural disasters and other misfortunes. Oh, like you mean like maybe kami-sama show their like rough side or anger through natural disasters or misfortunes. Like, uh, I think that's what you mean, but I hope, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's kind of like my perspective on this kind of thing. Like, I just think it's kind of predatory to like take advantage of those fears and, you know, concepts in religion and stuff like that. So I think if a person in religion does that, I think it should be talked about, and like maybe some criticism, you know, like why do you feel the need to, you know, take advantage of someone when they're vulnerable? You know, because we're all just humans, right? So Like if you really feel like doing a bad thing will invoke the wrath or the anger of a deity, then why are you doing a bad thing in turn, taking advantage of someone's suffering, right? So it's like it doesn't really add up. So I think that we should just try to, no matter the religion, remember the golden rule: just be good to one another. Maybe we don't know, we can't explain a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I think kindness is most important and it goes a long way. So I think, we should try to focus on that, especially if you're a clergy member. I don't like it when I see clergy like just taking advantage of people and like getting asking for money in their hard times. And I think too, like, unfortunately, like a lot of cults use this tactic too. And it's even worse because they have no shame at all. Like cults, like I don't mean like genuine religions, but I mean like cults that just exist to predate on, like, be predatory to people, and they have no religious basis, no genuine spiritual thing. They just want to like prey on people, and they take it up to the nines. Like they will just say anything to like take advantage of vulnerable people. There's been some people here who come and they've been part of a cult, and they tell us like they had to pay like, I don't know, like an exorbitant amount of money, like $50K for like this little like amulet thing, because the cult people were like, oh, if you buy this amulet, you're never gonna have anything bad happen in your life. But then obviously something bad happens. I'm like, oh, you didn't pray hard enough, so you have to buy this even more expensive amulet to protect yourself. And so they buy it, and it's like, it's like never ending, because like life is always gonna have suffering, and these crazy cults are just taking advantage of people who are going through hard times. And so like if like I think like genuine religions shouldn't follow the example of cults. I feel like they should move away from that kind of predatory practices and like move towards more, beneficial and like supportive and caring mindsets. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how stuff like that can happen, and I feel like it gives a lot of like genuine people in religious and spiritual spaces a really bad name, because like then everyone thinks like, oh, all of them are like con artists and they just care about money, but like that's not true. So yeah, it's just crazy how things like that can happen. And yeah, it can happen anywhere, like in any area of life. Scam artists exist everywhere, but I think it can hit a little bit harder when it's religion and spirituality, because it's such a sensitive thing, because it's such a touchy thing, because it preys on our deep primal fear of death and afterlife. I think that's what makes it even more like sinister and more hurtful than like if I just got scammed because I thought I was buying, I don't know, a nice jewelry, but it was like a Timu jewelry. So like I don't know, it's not as sinister versus like a religious style of scam or, you know, predatory practice, if that makes sense. So yeah. And AB Sen says I agree. Yeah, thank you. I guess it's just crazy how it can happen. But I don't know, I've just been thinking about all this stuff. And like, I want to kind of bridge the gap between like people more in the secular world and people on our side, like, religious, spiritual side. I want to bridge that gap between these two worlds and show that, like, it's religion is not like something outdated or, you know, just predatory or, just taking money for no reason. Like, I want to show how it can be beneficial in many ways, especially in a world where you have to like pay for a lot of things. Just to go out, like you have to pay for food, you have to pay for transport, you got to pay for everything. So, even if sometimes you have to pay for a ceremony here, um, other times you can just walk in, even Jinja, like you just walk in and you can explore the grounds. You can just enjoy the shrine grounds anytime. Buddhist temple, you can just walk in. You can just walk in here. Usually, most Catholic churches, most Christian churches, you can walk in. Just sit down and pray and enjoy. So, it's kind of like a library. Like you just go in and enjoy and have the peace and quiet. And there's no obligation to kind of like, there shouldn't be an obligation to like identify with that religion or pay a membership fee or anything like that. So I think I kind of want to bridge that to people. There's no like, it doesn't have to be that intense all the time. You can just have a space to collect yourself and feel peaceful. So yeah, that's my goal for this year and beyond. And yeah, so thank you so much for listening to that. But I think I'm gonna start wrapping up here because it's 2 o'clock soon. But before I go, does anyone have any questions or comments or anything they want to say for next time? Or if you have anything, please let me know. Yes, I always feel bad because I don't want to be like, okay, bye. And then someone was like, oh no, I had a question. So I just want to give the space in case anyone has anything to say. But yeah, thank you so much. And I really appreciate again, like everyone here for coming today and participating in the chat. And thank you so much. Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tifa. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad. Okay, okay, great. That's great. Thank you. Sorry, I think like today I'm kind of feeling less nervous. I'm feeling a little bit more confident. So hopefully I can start to make these a little bit more nice. And I was thinking next time, like I'm trying to do OBS, so have like little pictures I can explain things and like more evolved than just me talking. So I think it'll be nice. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Like as even though I'm talking in the back of my mind the whole time, like, am I making sense? Am I just being crazy? So thank you so much for really listening and participating. It really means a lot to me. So thank you so much. And again, like if there's anything you want to talk about, just please let me know. But yeah, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And I know like some of you guys have like emails or messages, and I'm gonna get to them very soon. I'm sorry for taking a long time. Just like it's been pretty hectic the last few weeks, but slowly getting back to normal. So I'll take some time to respond soon. So thank you so much for your patience and thank you for coming. Yes. So okay, I guess I'll go for now. But I hope you all have a great day or a great evening, and I'll see you next Saturday. So yes, thank you so much, and again, happy birthday to Vidibsa. Happy birthday! Hope you have a nice day. And I know that like you know it can be difficult sometimes, but I hope you have a nice day regardless, and you can relax. So I hope that everything's good. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Bye bye. Take care. Oyasumi nasai.